Hey everybody and welcome back to Fantasy Football. Game week number 6. Hope you're all doing well. I'm doing I'm doing well actually. Bit disappointed with the weekend as we'll go into, but there you go. 36 points for me. Pretty atrocious. I feel like I was one of those just super unlucky weeks really where out of my control on a few things happening. Mostly Sterling not playing at all. Got rested. It's the risk you take. He was the most captain player out of every single player. So clearly it wasn't just me being an idiot. You know, who knows what could have happened if he'd have played, as we'll go into the Man City result later. Really, the only two players who did anything this week for me at all were Salah and Alexander-Arnold. I guess Guendouzi got an assist. Yeah, he got an assist, so he did okay, but otherwise just nothing. Very flat. And I mean, to be fair, Abraham has been on fire recently, so you can't complain too much. Haller has started pretty well-ish. So can't really complain too much. And then I wouldn't personally say there were too many shock results this week. I think actually, to be fair, a lot of the results went the way I said they were going to go last video, if you want to check that. But we'll get into that in just a sec. If we have a look at the Plays League, we can see at the top we have Big Bad Boys. Big Bad Boys. It's a good name. I like that. Lee Halliwell is the new leader by just 2 points. Everything to play for. Good, decent wink, 59. I wouldn't say anybody had oh, no, actually, we did have some spectacular ones down here, didn't we? An 87 there from Clement Edwards. Let's have a look. Ooh, De Bruyne captain. That was a great shout, by the way. De Bruyne, for me, I think he's got to be a player who works his way in now, because we all know how good Kevin De Bruyne has been since he's since he left Chelsea. Like, he looked great at Wolfsburg, but since he came to Man City and under Pep, he has just been phenomenal. And it's only injuries, I think personally, that has actually kept him from possibly getting into the Ballon d'Or conversations. And if he doesn't get injured this year, carries on the way he is, it would take a very, very excellent season from someone else to beat him to one of those prizes. He was unlucky not to get PFA Player of the Year. Way back when it was him or Salah, wasn't it, I think? And I think Salah got it instead, but he had a fantastic season then. Just a phenomenal player, really phenomenal player. I see some of the balls he whips into the box and you're just like, he does it consistently, and you're like, those balls are just like the most dangerous crosses you can do, where they just come right, they're hit with speed, they come right across the across like the 6-yard line. The keeper is like, I don't know what to do. It's like pin perfect of like, it's a bit too far for him to come for it, but it's also dangerously close to him, so the keeper kind of, I think, feels indecisive by it. The defenders just crap themselves because they know if they get a foot on it, it's going to be an own goal. And like, honestly, his deliveries are just so good. And that finish he made, I mean, I'll talk about it I'll talk about it now. The finish he had was just phenomenal for the final goal. Something else, I tell you. The guy is just on another planet right now. And absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can see he had Sterling as well. So, it was a surprise, I think, but that is what happens, I think, with Pep Guardiola teams and any big teams, is eventually they're going to rest a player, especially against, you're going to be like, oh, I want this, I want these guys to play against the bad teams, but then on the flip side of that, you're like, the manager's like, oh, well, I might rest this player because I'm playing against one of the worst teams in the league. So not a great week, but well done, Clement there. 87 points is very good, actually. Highest point was 141. Silva, Yamaneka, De Bruyne. Salah letting them down. Abraham Otamendi. Oh yeah, I guess Otamendi's a bit of a dark horse for me at the minute, and I might consider putting him in because he's going to play every game. And Man City, more often than not, are going to get clean sheets, even as bad a defender as he is, because um, the opposition's barely going to touch the ball. So I think I might pop him in, and I think I've got to pop in De Bruyne as well. He's just phenomenal. Triple captain played, I see, as well. So yeah, not bad. Triple captain, 141. Well done to FC Glada Killingen. Oh, Swedish. Um, yeah. So, I mean, let's have a look and go through the results. I guess we'll start off in chronological order. I think it was the Spurs Leicester game was the first one. No, sorry, Friday night we had Southampton Bournemouth, didn't we? Of course, my bad. Um, I've been calling for a while that I don't think Southampton are very good. They've had some half decent results this season. I just, yeah, I just don't know about them. The Wilsons of Bournemouth are looking very good. I mean, I know Harry Wilson's only on loan, but I mean, he's going to be a real asset to Liverpool when he goes back there. I mean, it's scary to think that um, Liverpool don't really need any more, great players up front, but they're going to get one next season. It's good for them, I guess. Callum Wilson as well. You got to feel this could be like his last season with Bournemouth if he keeps up the scoring. I don't know how old he is now. 27, so he's really in his peak. And I mean, sure, you could argue and say he's going to be 28 by the time you get to the transfer window in kind of next year. But someone taking a chance on Callum Wilson, 28, proven Premier League goal scorer. We'll see, I guess. If he was 26, I'd say he'd definitely be going, but maybe the 28 people might not think so. But you'd get 4 good seasons out of him, I think. But anyway, Nathan Ake is another one who I think will be, could be facing his last season with Bournemouth because he's a very good defender as well. But Southampton, I just don't feel like Southampton are that good. I mean, I don't know what it is really. I think on paper they're not terrible. I just think they've really been poor for the last few seasons, and I just feel like they've always managed to just slightly pull out of the bag in a few games, get enough points here or there to kind of scrape through, and people don't really talk about them. But I mean, this could be a year where I don't think they'll go down. I mean, at the end of the day, they're 13th at the minute on 7 points. They've had 2 wins already. I think they'll do it again where they'll probably finish around 13th because they'll just be worse teams than below them. They managed to pick out a few wins here and there and get some results. And they'll probably be fine. As for Bournemouth, up to 6th. I think they were as high as 4th before the Sunday games. There's a couple of losses, which was Man City away, which, a lot of teams are going to lose that game. Man City at home, Leicester away. Leicester are decent. And then some good wins. I would say they've conceded in every game this season, and 10 goals conceded is up there with Arsenal. It's not great, but I think they are decent. I don't know how much further Eddie Howe's going to be able to take them. I don't know if Eddie Howe's just happy being at Bournemouth for the rest of his career. It's like it's a club he knows, it's a club he loves. He's, maybe got ambitions to try and get them into the Europa League, etc., etc. Maybe I know they want to build a new stadium, and that's the key because they have a tiny stadium, and they need a bigger stadium to be able to generate more income, to be able to pay higher wages for players and things like that. I mean, people often think like, transfer fees are the money, but transfer fees quite often are not generally that much of an issue. It's usually wage bills that's the issue. You can often get players on frees or for cheap prices, very good players. It's the wages that come with them that's the problem. Man United would let Alexis Sanchez go for free if someone could pay those bloody wages. So wages are often where it kind of comes in. Bournemouth are not the type of team who, even if they get a new stadium, are going to be paying 50, 60 million for players. They're the type of team though who could be paying like 15, 20 million for players, but struggling to pay the 150 grand a week that those sort of players will be wanting. So for them to get to the next stage, that's, they need to increase that income, match day income, etc., etc., and also just for the status of being a established Premier League club now. They play decent football, so I don't think they have too much problem filling a bigger stadium because people will want to watch them play. But in order to keep some of the big players they've got, etc., they're going to need to pay higher wages, and that comes at a cost. Southampton, who knows? As I said, I think they're going to scrape through and be okay. But I'm telling you, it's going to catch up with them one day. Leicester against Tottenham. I had this one down as a draw, which, to be fair, until the 85th minute it was. Because I thought both these teams were quite evenly matched, and I think Spurs, after their kind of 4-0 tonking at Palace, you felt like they turned a corner a bit, but they haven't really, have they? Very indifferent form this season. Sure, they've drawn 2 tough games that they could have lost. They lost an easy one. They lost this one to Leicester, which, on the flip side, if they'd have maybe beaten Newcastle, maybe held on to beat Arsenal or done something like that, you might not have been like, Leicester decent enough, but margins, it's fine margins in this league, and Tottenham are 7th because they deserve to be in 7th right now. They're not playing like a top 4 side currently. There's clearly issues at that club with personnel, manager, whatever. I kind of feel like it all stemmed, like everything was going brilliantly, obviously. The Champions League final, when I felt like when Pochettino kind of said, if we win this, I'll leave. Whether or not that was true or not, I think something just kind of changed there, where I think a lot of people were suddenly thinking like, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, a lot of the other kind of players, the reason they're playing at Spurs and not at a bigger club is because of Pochettino. And as much as I'm sure Harry Kane loves Spurs, he's come through the youth academy, etc., etc., and he wants to be, Spurs captain and lead them to glory and all that. I feel like if it wasn't for Pochettino, dragging this team along as well and getting the best out of those players, like Harry Kane would have been off by now. He would have been snapped up by, on a massive money move. And so maybe when the manager kind of is saying that a little bit, and he does famously fall out with players as well, we saw Trippier go off to Atletico Madrid, and he wasn't, too happy about things. Maybe things are kind of bubbling to the surface a little bit. Maybe there's an issue there. I don't know what Spurs will look like post Pochettino. They've obviously got a great infrastructure now. Brilliant stadium. They have got a lot of very, very good players, but you wonder who else can come in and do a job like Pochettino has done at that club. He's been absolutely fantastic. I'm not saying that he's going anywhere or do anything, but you just feel that if Spurs don't make that top 4 this season, I think they will, to be fair, but if they don't, and where do we go? Did they peak at getting to the Champions League final last season? Was that the best they could hope for? They're still trophyless under Pochettino at the end of the day. He still hasn't won a trophy with them. Sometimes I feel like he prioritises the bigger trophies too much. Get the League Cup. A lot of people don't rate the League Cup, but at the end of the day, it's a trophy. Go out there, win it. Europa League, things like that. I know it's easier said than done. Like, I'm sure they're not going into those matches expecting to lose, but the Premier League is away from Spurs right now, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to get to the Champions League final again, but there are cups they could win. We'll see. Leicester though. Leicester looking good, great goal from Maddison. I've given him a bit of stick, I think. I do still feel like he is a bit overrated by people. A lot of people saying he's like England's best kind of midfielder in that position. I don't feel like that's the case at all. A lot of people, criticising Southgate for not picking him. Well, it did pick him, I think. It didn't play him, if I remember rightly. I think Mason Mount was in better form than Maddison, to be fair. But it was a really good goal from him. If he that was his first goal of the season as well, I believe. Um, yeah, his first goal of the season. So you can kind of understand it and say like, you know, um, 7 last season. I don't think he gets enough goals. I think he said that as well. Like he doesn't get enough goals currently to kind of earn that. But I think Brendan Rodgers has done a real solid job at Leicester. When he came into Leicester, they were very much kind of like still a mid-table team, I think, and now they are pushing for that top four. They've got excellent players, but on paper, that Spurs side is better than them. Like, okay, Lloris was out because of, I think his wife had a child. Um, his child, I'm sure. It sounded weird. But, you look at the back line up, and sure, I think Chilwell's a very good defender, but otherwise, I think those defenders are better. Serge Aurier, okay, there's an argument there. He is a bit of a dodge spot sometimes. Midfield-wise as well, Sissoko, Ndombele, Lamela, Winks, they had Ericsson, Mora, Wanyama coming off the bench. On paper, I would give that to Spurs, but I think Leicester outplayed them there. And, going forward, I mean, Harry Kane is better than Jamie Vardy. Son is also excellent as well if you put him more into the midfield there. Son is a fantastic player as well. So, yeah, it's a great win for Leicester. They held their own. They deserved it 100%. And that puts them now into third position, 2 points off Man City. Way away from Liverpool, to be fair. But, yeah, they're struggling for goals a little bit. Take away those two. You've got Arsenal on 11, Bournemouth on 11, Tottenham on 12, West Ham on 8 as well. You would think a little bit more, but 5 goals conceded in 6 games is decent. That's the second best defence in the league currently. So it's been a quite high scoring season so far. But yeah, I'm really interested to see where Leicester are going under Brendan Rodgers. I've always felt like he was a good manager. Like he does get the piss taken out of him because of mannerisms sometimes and the things he says and this kind of inflated self-importance. And I mean, I feel like, this arrogance, if you like, in a way that he has. But listen, Mourinho is like the most arrogant manager on earth and people do love him for that. I think Brendan Rodgers gets a bad rep because, I'll be frank, because he's like Irish, because he's not from Portugal or Italy or Spain or something like that. He's not a continental manager. It's a bit like, what have you got to be arrogant about? And I get that as well because Mourinho has won everything there is to win multiple times. You can turn around and go, okay, that's arrogant. But he was arrogant before he won anything, Mourinho. And I think Brendan Rodgers, his football teams play pretty well, and you could argue his honours are that he's won everything in Scotland with Celtic, and whatever I once watched an interview where they were talking to a Dutch footballer, and they're talking about the team of I think it was like Frank Rijkaard's Barcelona team or something like that, and they were saying like, oh, could anyone have managed that team and they would have won? And they were like, no, don't be stupid. Just because you have fantastic players, you still have to do a lot of work behind the scenes, tactically, training wise, to make sure they're all playing at a peak level and stuff like that. And so I think sometimes people underestimate. Yes, Celtic clearly have the best team in Scotland, but you still have to win every game and get that hunger and take that complacency away from people. And I don't feel like he gets enough credit for what he did at Celtic there. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see. I think getting Leicester top 4 will be a brilliant achievement from this season. I think it's totally possible as well. Burnley beating Norwich. I called this last week. I said that Norwich will be obviously rightly buzzing, but going to Burnley, and it was a weird thing to say, but from their point of view, it was a harder game almost than Man City, because the way Burnley set up, you're going to get spaces against Man City, and they did. And if you can defend resolutely, and Man City have an off day, then you're going to get 1 or 2 chances, and they got 3 chances and they took them brilliantly. But Burnley are just a solid team, and Chris Wood 2 goals, decent, and yeah, welcome to the Premier League, Norwich. You know, this is what happens. You beat Man City one week, you lose to Burnley the next. I personally still think Norwich are going to get relegated. You know, that Man City result aside, I still think they're going to get relegated. But I say it every week. All you need are 3 worse teams. Currently, there are 4 worse teams than Norwich. So who knows? Who knows? Burnley, you know, 9th. They'll be well happy if they can finish 9th. First win of the season, though. No, second win of the season. Sorry, won on the first day of the season, and then had not so great a run, but they lost to Arsenal and they lost to Liverpool and they drew with, you know, I'd say they're having a very bang average season right now, Burnley, and that's exactly what they'll do. You know, they've got Aston Villa next, so I'd expect them to win that as well, to be fair. I called this game as well, okay? I called this. I said I expected Sheffield United to beat Everton because I just feel Everton are just a bit crap right now, aren't they? You know, if I was at Everton Sport, I'd be fuming because on paper their team is far superior to Sheffield United. I take nothing away from Sheffield United, but what we see in football time and time again, it's a team game, and the sum of parts is what counts, not the individual parts. And Sheffield United play like a real team, playing for a manager they believe in and following what he wants, you know, to the core, and it is working for them. And Everton right now, or have been, I just don't think Marco Silva's working for them. I think he'll probably be the next manager to get sacked, to be completely honest with you. Look at that team. You know, on paper, that is a fantastic team. There are multiple internationals there. You know, England's #1 goalkeeper there. You know, on the bench, look who they can bring on. You know, Iwobi. They spent 30 million on Iwobi and he's on the bench. Walcott, you know, Tosson, Calvert-Lewis, you know, those players would walk into a Sheffield United side, and again, no offence meant to Sheffield United, but maybe they wouldn't because of you know, work ethic and stuff like that maybe. But you feel like it's coming down to the manager, like it's not working for them. You know, yeah, sure, they're knocking on the door, but 3 shots on target against a newly promoted side. You know, and yeah, you know, Sheffield United had 1 and scored 2 goals because one was an own goal. But, you know, Sheffield United are just really well drilled, and that is a fantastic result for them. Everton this season, everyone was tipping them top 4. They're 14th after 6 games. They've got Man City next. I kind of feel like Marco Silva's time is done. You know, I don't see him coming back. I think probably. What are Everton's next run of games? So Man City, Burnley, tough game. West Ham, tough game. I think. I don't think he's going to make November. That's my theory there. Or let's have a look. Hang on a minute. No, that's when he's going. Look, there's an international break there. There's a break there. That's when he's going. They're going to lose to Man City. I'm telling you that now. And they're going to lose to Burnley. And I think he will be fired after the Burnley game. I think he'll be those 2 games. If he manages to get a miraculous result against Man City and manages to beat Burnley, as to be fair, Everton on paper should do, then I think he'll be okay. Probably until, you know, seeing how it goes. But that gap there, I think, will be when he gets fired. I'm calling that now. I've been around the block enough times to know, you know, Everton should be doing better. They spent a ton of money, and they should be doing much better. And I mean, obviously, I and everyone else in the world tipped Sheffield United to get relegated. They're 10th after 6 games. You know, they're picking up wins, and that's, you know, they're doing okay. They have the same results as Chelsea. Better goal difference after 6 games. It's phenomenal. You know, 1 more point than Everton. 4 points off relegation zone after 6 games. It's phenomenal. I hope they can keep it going. You know, it would be a great, you know, story to see them stay up, and at the end of the day, they just need to finish 17th or higher, and they're there. And it would be a fantastic result for them. But Everton, yeah, I feel like the writing's on the wall for Marco Silva. I just never rated him as a manager. I felt like he was massively overrated for the stuff he did. But there you go. Manchester City 8. I feel like that should be written like 8 as well, because people get confused. Watford 0. I called this one last week. I said Man City are going to absolutely batter Watford, because they will. Pep Guardiola would have amped them up so much. The thing Man City don't do is they don't lose twice. Okay, they react. That's Guardiola putting a rocket up their backsides. This was over. This was over after 1 minute. It was totally over after 12, and it was embarrassing by 18 minutes. Like, Watford had chucked the towel in after the 12th minute, essentially. It could have been way more if Sergio Aguero had his scoring boots on. Very surprising, he only really got the one. It could have been a record. The record was 9-0, I think, Man United against Ipswich. What can you say? Man City are brilliant. Watford are a shambles right now. They have no confidence. They, are giving up. And there's a lot of work to do with Watford. They've got the quality to stay up, but I don't know if they've got the spirit to stay up. Does that make sense? Like, on paper, they have enough quality to stay up in the Premier League, but once you're 6 games in with 2 points, you conceded 18 goals and only scored 4. Like, they need a break with this new manager, and they've got Wolves next, and that's a big game because Wolves are only just above them, in everything. And if we look at what Watford's fixtures are, Wolves, Sheffield United. I mean, yeah, they on paper you were expecting Watford to get something out of those 2 games, but I just don't expect them to be honest with you, because they just don't seem to have any will anymore. They've just been ground down after a terrible start to the season. Man City have always battered Watford. I don't know why, they just have. But it was a gap in quality, but not just quality. Like, it's 11 men on each side at the end of the day, but the gap was about a team which was hungry and used that quality and believed in what their manager was doing, and a team who didn't do any of that, and that is what makes it 8-0. As I said, De Bruyne was just phenomenal. He's on another planet. I know everyone talks about this all the time, but imagine the Chelsea team with Salah and De Bruyne in. Jesus Christ. Pretty good. Man City, John Stones is out injured. I called it about Fernandinho playing the centre defence last week. I would even have done that even if Stones wasn't injured, to be quite honest with you. Fernandinho, I think, is probably a better central defender than John Stones and Nicolas Otamendi. They've got Eric Garcia as well, the young Spaniard, who they're clearly going to want to bring in. But that I think might cost Man City the league this season, is them failing to, because I completely forgot last season, of course, they Company has left. It isn't a case of like, they managed last season with 3 central defenders. They had 4. They didn't play Company that much, but he still played, and he still can come in against teams like Watford and this and do a great role. And also that ability in the dressing room to lead the team as well, as much as anything off the pitch as on the pitch, is a massive loss for them. And I think failing to get a central defender will cost them this season in terms of the league. And I think Liverpool will win it, but that doesn't take away from them being a phenomenal team. When you have these guys on your bench, it's scary. Very scary. Tom Cleverley was paying up front, was he? Okay, interesting. And just this team is, we're lucky to be able to witness a team like this. I mean, when we I remember the times of when Pep Guardiola was at Barcelona, and you saw the type of like quality that they played and stuff like that, and people were saying like you'd never see this in the Premier League. You can't do that in the Premier League, and you can do that in the Premier League. Yeah, you probably can't do that with English players as much, barring Raheem Sterling, I guess, and Kyle Walker. But you can do that in the Premier League and win games. I love to see those people's faces. Who called him like fraudiola, and like was saying he's just a big fraud. He just won things because he had the best team and all this kind of malarkey, and it's just utter nonsense, isn't it? He's a phenomenal manager. We're lucky enough to live in a time where we see players like Messi and Ronaldo, but we have phenomenal managers bringing things to the game like Klopp and Guardiola, and it's just next level stuff. I was watching a interesting like YouTube documentary the other day, and it was about how football, there's nothing left to evolve in it, and like this is like the final stage of it. I don't feel like that's the case, because with the way we've seen football evolve over the years, whether it was from, the very early days where they used to play with like 6 people up front and 2 in defence, to kind of flipping that around, or, the total football of the Dutch, or Catenaccio of the Italians. We've seen teams do things different ways. We see like Mourinho be super successful with the way he played. That kind of battle tortoise way. That Chelsea team was phenomenal. We see Guardiola win with his way. This fluid football. We see Klopp win with his kind of like heavy metal football. If you like, relentless running and pressing, and we see teams win in different ways, and managers will come up with new ways to do things. Look at Sheffield United. They're coming up with this overlapping centre-back kind of style, which people haven't really seen before. Evolutions will kind of come from it. And I also don't believe that there is just one way to play football. Like, this is not like the best way to play football. It works with the players he's got and in the style he wants to play. But ultimately, there are many different ways to win a football match, and there isn't a right or wrong way. It's what makes the game so good is that Norwich can beat Man City one week, and Man City will whip Watford the next. Moving on, not much to see here though, really, was it? Newcastle 0, Brighton Hove Albion 0. Just very kind of meh. I feel like that's a good result for Newcastle. Keeps him outside the relegation zone. I fear for him though this season. If Wolves get their act together, Watford get their act together, I really fear for Newcastle this season. I think they're really struggling. And Brighton, again, won first game of the season, winless since. Wouldn't say that necessarily like their performances have been bad, but they need to start picking up some points soon. I like Graham Potter. I think he's a good manager, but yeah, they need to start picking up some points. I was very annoyed about this game. Very annoyed. So, yeah, Crystal Palace drawing with 10-man Wolverhampton Wanderers, conceding in the 95th minute. Furious at that, but, I did kind of say that, like, Crystal Palace is a great team to play when you're on a bad run, because we often will gift you things, and we did in a way. One of the things as well, like, people criticise Zaha this season because he hasn't got assists or, like, goals or whatever so far, and, like, clearly there's a lot of unhappiness going on there. Clearly, like, I imagine this will be his last season, but he does other things which people don't rate. So, for example, Romain Saiz got sent off because he fouled Wilfried Zaha twice and got 2 yellow cards. That when you have a player like Zaha on your team, they're going to get fouled, and teams get sent off. Palace should have held on. They should have won this game. They didn't. As it is, we're 12th, and a couple extra points, we could have been right up there. Listen, I'll take mid-table this season 1,000,000%. We have a terrible up front, and Benteke missed a decent chance, and I feel sorry for the guy because he's a really good guy, but like he's just shot, isn't he? Really, like he reminds me of like Torres after his Chelsea move. It's just like. Oof. Not the same player he was for whatever reason, and I don't even think it's physical. I think it's just confidence. Wolves need to start picking up points very soon. Talk about Europa League all you want. At the end of the day, they shouldn't have lost a lot of the games they've lost, and it's going to be a big one against Watford. Big game. I would expect them to beat Watford personally. I think they're good enough to do that, but they need to pick up some points. I wonder if the Wolves boss is under fire. I mean, he did brilliantly. He's done brilliantly the last 2 seasons, but Wolves at the end of the day, for a club that size, their MO is Premier League football, and if that's in danger, will they act? I wonder. We'll see. West Ham United 2, Manchester United 0. This was not a great performance from West Ham beating an average Man United. This was an average West Ham beating a terrible Man United. That's what this was. I said that I thought Marco Silva would be the first manager to go, but I can't see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer lasting much longer. Man United, I don't necessarily feel like it's 100% his fault, but also as a manager you have to kind of, whether or not transfers are your fault, whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, Man United have gone into this season with, their only fit forward currently is Marcus Rashford. They subbed him in the 61st minute and brought on Jesse Lingard. I mean, Rashford was clearly not fit. Mason Greenwood was ill. This is Man United. This is a team who I grew up with, winning time after time after time. With world-class players. Not necessarily a team full of world-class players, but a manager who would drag that team and make them perform at 10% better than they had ever performed before, and then have key players who were just brilliant and could turn matches in a heartbeat, whether that was a Giggs or whether that was a Cantona or a Scholes or a Sheringham, or even bringing on a Solskjaer off the bench. And I look at this Man United team now and I'm like, what is there? I mean, listen, David De Gea's a decent goalkeeper, sure, sign a new contract. His form's been a little bit iffy, but I also feel like he hasn't had a great defence in front of him, which makes a massive difference for a goalkeeper. Maguire's a decent defender. We see him come in. I don't feel like he was necessarily the answer to their problems. Wan-Bissaka is a very good right back, and I think he'll be a good signing for them. He's still got a way to go yet, but he'll be a good signing. Lindelof and Young are not good enough to play for Man United. They're just not. They're not good enough to play for a mid-table Premier League side. They're just not. I mean, Ashley Young has had a great career, but he's gone. He's not even. He's probably mid-table Championship level at the minute, but they're playing him because they've got no one else. Luke Shaw's constantly injured. Lindelof, again, they've got no one else. Who are they going to play? Twanzebe? Marcus Rojo? Come on. Midfield. That is the worst Man United midfield I've seen in decades. It really is. I rate Juan Mata, but he's never really worked out at Man United. He was fantastic at Chelsea because they built a team kind of around him a little bit. They're not doing that at Man United. They're not playing to his strengths. Pereira, in an Alex Ferguson team, Pereira would not even feature. Maybe he would. That's unfair. When Eric Djemba featured for Man United, anything is possible. But my point is, he would be a bench player. I think he's played most games this season. He's played 5 games with 1 sub appearance. I don't feel like he's good enough to be a top 4 Premier League player. He just isn't. Oh God, where am I going? He just isn't. That's clear. Daniel James could well go on to be a great player. Is he ready now? No, not in any way. Do Man United have a history of playing kids? Yeah, but they usually play kids when there are established professionals around them who are also very good. They don't have that. McTominay, I don't feel would fit into a Man United side. Matic is gone. He'd gone in a season before they even signed him, and they still signed him. Rashford, people keep going on. Where's Rashford's best position? Is it left attack? Is it centre? Whatever. All I look at Rashford and see is Theo Walcott. Like, maybe that's harsh. I actually think that is harsh. I think Rashford is better than Theo Walcott was, but I don't think he's having a terrible season. But I'm like, you're pinning like Man United. Like, look at the strikers Man United have had in the past, like Cole, York, Cantona, Sheringham, Van Persie, Ruud van Nistelrooy, world-class strikers. Marcus Rashford is not at that level yet. So to sell someone like Lukaku, who again is not quite at that level, but has a Premier League scoring record that is phenomenal, and if you actually play to his strengths, he will score goals. Like, Antonio Conte is not an idiot, like, in any way. He's a Premier League winning manager at the end of the day. He rates Lukaku. He wanted him at Inter, and Lukaku's banging the goals in because he plays to his strength. That for me will be the biggest mistake Man United made, is selling Lukaku this season when you had no one to replace him. If they'd have brought in somebody and replaced him, been like, well, this guy fits better to our system, fine. But they didn't, did they? And they're paying for it right now. Even if Martial's fit, even if Greenwood's fit, I still don't think they win this game. That's how sad it is. Man United are nothing but a mid-table side now. And it's phenomenal to me to see how much they've fallen from what was. It's just phenomenal to me because I look at it and go, Man United is this money machine, like this winning machine. Sometimes they'd have a bad season, they'd still win a little thing here or there. Even in Mourinho, still won 2 cups with them, in one season. But now they literally look like they look worse than West Ham. I don't think West Ham are actually that amazing, but they're getting solid, West Ham. But West Ham played averagely and easily beat Man United. That is shocking. And the difference it was, so Yarmolenko's goal, a little bit of brilliance, cuts inside, swings the ball in, brilliant. Aaron Cresswell, great goal, free kick. But you're like, that's the sort of thing that Man United used to do. But now they don't have any players capable of doing that. That used to be kind of Man United's hallmark, was like they wouldn't play that well, but they'd find a way to win. A little piece of brilliance from a player, a world-class player, and you do it. And now teams are doing that against them. And there's no fear for teams playing Man United anymore. They know they're shambolic. They know they're terrible in defence. And so teams go there and they're, there's no fear from them. And they want to beat them because Man United is still a massive name. It's still a massive club. And they want to beat them. And so Man United have just... every week it's just a slog, and their players aren't up for it. I mean, you look at Man United, you go, where's a world-class player in that team? Maybe De Gea, the goalkeeper. There's a few players who maybe in a few years' time could be world-class, but that's a could be, and they're not right now. The only player they've probably got, proven world-class player, is Paul Pogba, and he is very on and off. So... yeah, I mean, it's scary times, I think, if you're a Man United fan, because what do you do? Robbie Savage said they were 10 years away from winning the Premier League. 5-10 years, depending on how much money they're willing to spend. I know, like, people can look at it and go, well, Man City have spent, X amount of money, 500, 600 million or whatever, building that team, plus however much in wages and Guardiola's wages and all that type of stuff. It is true, but at the end of the day, it doesn't guarantee you success. Like, you have to have a plan, and they don't seem to have an identity, man. They don't have a plan. I also listened to radio, and somebody was saying how people are slagging off Solskjaer as manager, but they're not doing the same. Saying he should never have got the job in the first place, just because he's an ex-player. He didn't have the experience. But people aren't saying that about Frank Lampard. And it's like, well, yeah, people are saying that about Frank Lampard, but the difference was, Chelsea were never going to get a big manager because they had a transfer ban. But they could have got a good manager, but they because of the situation they were in, it was unique. Man United weren't in that situation. Man United had money to spend. They are just making bad decisions, and it's coming back to bite them in the arse constantly. 8th is a good. If they carry on like this, 8th is exactly where they'll probably finish this season, 8th to 10th. I think they're going to make a change. I don't think Solskjaer's going to make the end of the season. I'd be surprised if he makes Christmas. unless something dramatic happens. But I don't see something dramatic happening, so we'll see. Um, Arsenal 3, Aston Villa 2. Oof, this was a real roller coaster, wasn't it? I'll give credit to Arsenal. I give them a lot of stick every single week. But this was a game where I've seen Arsenal many times throw it away and lose. You know, I think they were 1-0 down. You know, Ainsley Maitland-Niles gets sent off for a rash challenge, who, by the way, is not good enough. I know he's just playing because Bellerin's injured, and once Bellerin comes back, he won't. But he's not good enough, in my opinion, to play in the Premier League. They have some very good youngsters, Arsenal, but I don't think he's good enough. Like every time I've seen him play, he has been making mistakes left, right, and centre. From when first time I think I saw him play was against Man City. To be fair, I think it was the beginning of last season. Um, he uh, he got destroyed then. I think he went off injured, but he was just like, yeah, this guy's miles away, from where he should be. If I compare him to, say, like, he's 22. He's not a child. He's not an 18-year-old on the pitch. He's 22 years old, and he's not good enough to play. But he's playing with other players who are also not good enough to play. So it's not even like, to be fair, it's not necessarily his fault. But yeah, this is a type of game where, you would watch Arsenal throw it away and end up losing, especially after they got back into the game through Pepe's penalty and then conceded within like 60 seconds. Good to see Wesley getting a goal. But they hung in there. They got 2 late goals. Callum Chambers stepping up. A lot of people are saying Callum Chambers should be playing. Didn't see them saying that last season when he was getting relegated with Fulham. But anyway, this is where it's conjured with Arsenal's defence right now. The fans are clamouring for Callum Chambers to play, as if he's the saviour. Like, goodness me. The saviour that Arsenal have is they have a great attacking lineup. Guendouzi is looking quality in midfield. He's looking like a real leader there, even though he's 20. It's almost embarrassing, to the other players. Xhaka is not looking like a captain. They have some good young players, Arsenal. Ozil not even coming on in this game. Yeah, it's strange. Very strange what's going on at Arsenal. You feel like Arsenal are 5 years away from challenging for anything. And in 5 years' time, Pierre-Emerick will be 35. So they won't be able to rely on him. Lacazette's not getting any younger. So I kind of feel like Arsenal are going south. Listen, this is a great result for them to pull it back, but it doesn't cover up a lot of problems. They're 4th in the league at the end of the day. They're similar to Man United, only they have a much better striking, much better strikers at the end of the day. So I would imagine them beating Man United, to be fair, but they're not. There's papering over cracks, isn't there, going on, I think. We'll see. As for Villa, that's going to really hurt them. Conceding 2 goals like that from a winning position to lose the match. When you're down there, you've done so well up to that point, and you're playing against 10 men for 60 minutes. It's, not looking good for Villa, I don't think, this season. Burnley's going to be a real tough game for them. So, I don't think they're going to stay up, to be fair, Villa. They need to do a lot more than what they're doing right now. They're shipping goals, not scoring very many at all. So, yeah. And then I guess the big game of the weekend, Chelsea against Liverpool. It was a cracking game, actually, to be fair. Phenomenal goals in this game, I will say. Well, Firmino's was pretty basic, but Alexander-Arnold's kind of like, I guess, free kick was absolute, blaster. And Kante with just a phenomenal goal. Guy's a quality player, and him coming back will make a big difference to Chelsea. I feel like Chelsea have been just on the edge of so much this season, where you look at them and like they are in 11th, which is terrible for Chelsea, but sometimes you're like, they've been really close to a great result, and whether it's a back line letting them down, or whether it, by the way, I just want to say about Arsenal's back line, that first goal from McGinn, Oh my god, that was terrible defending. Like, oh, it's almost comical. Um, yeah, Chelsea. The thing about Chelsea, I think, which is different to say like Man United, is I feel like Chelsea are moving in the right direction. Like they've got young players who are looking good. You know, Mason Mount's looking good. Tammy Abraham's looking good. You know, Tomori's looking decent in defence. You know, they've got some players coming back from injury. They, you know, Chelsea haven't managed to buy any players, and they still have a better forward lineup than Man United. I don't know how that's happened. Um, you know, they came back into this game in the second half. You know, after Liverpool had kind of, you know, really outplayed them in the first half, but I feel like Chelsea deserved something out of this game. And Liverpool had to hang on. They really did. But that, to be fair, that is also the sign of champions, though, when you can hang on like that. And you know, uh, if you hang on and manage to get that win, that is a sign of a champion. You know, I feel like Chelsea are going to be okay. I think they're getting better. Those young players are going to be getting more confidence, more games they're playing. I think they're getting better. I think Frank Lampard's getting better. Like, I feel like they're on an upwards trajectory, um, as opposed to some other teams. But they do need to start winning some games. They haven't won a home game since Frank Lampard's come in, and that's got to be a worry. Liverpool, though, are just looking imperious at the top. You know, they're most likely going to beat Sheffield United. That would be an utter shock if they didn't win that game. Um, and yeah, you know, barring some catastrophic injury crisis, you know, you'd imagine they're going to go on and have a great season. Um, of course, Man City are going to chase them down hard. You know, that's without a doubt. You know, Man City have had a couple of, yeah, they've only drawn one and lost one at the end of the day. Like, it's not catastrophic for City. Like, that was a bad result against Norwich. But somewhere along the line, like, the thing is, I was thinking about this actually the other day, and I was like, Liverpool look as close for me as a team which could go a season unbeaten since probably, well, since Man City last season probably, but you know, like the Invincibles of Arsenal, because they just look like a team who want to win every game, and they fight to the end, and they have really good players to come in if there's been injuries or something like that. Um, so yeah, I feel like it's on for Liverpool. You know, if they can, the only team I feel like can beat Liverpool is Man City. So if they can not lose to Man City, they could go. You know, it's a big ask. It's a massive ask, but I feel like it's almost on for them. You know, in a way. But yeah, great result for them. As I said, Kante's goal was phenomenal. He's such a quality player, really is. But yeah, Chelsea need to stop shipping goals. 13 goals, you know, that is relegation form. Sure, scored 12, which is pretty good, but yeah, there's entertainment going on at Stamford Bridge. You've got to give them that. There's some high scores, but yeah, they need to start, you know, sorting that defence out a little bit. The thing is, I don't see their defence and think like, oh, you've got bad defenders. I just think like there's something missing there, if that makes sense. I don't know what it is. Definitely not Kurt Zuma, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, looking at the table, you know, it's still too early to really tell anything, isn't it? Really, you'd imagine Liverpool, Man City are going to duke it out for the rest of the season. So fixtures coming up. You know, Sheffield United, Liverpool. Got to imagine Liverpool win. Bournemouth, West Ham. It's a very tight game, that one. I wouldn't like to call it. Probably a draw if I had to push the boat out. Villa, Burnley. I'd imagine Burnley to get a draw in this game. Chelsea, Brighton. I think Chelsea will win that game. I think there'll be too much for Brighton, but Brighton are capable of defending solidly, so we'll see. Palace, Norwich. Well, it's clearly a Norwich win. I'm telling you now, it's a Norwich win. Spurs, Southampton. You got to imagine Spurs are gonna beat Southampton there, but it'd be very Spursy for them to lose that game. Wolves, Watford, massive game. I fancy Wolves. I've got to fancy Man City to beat Everton. Leicester to beat Newcastle, and Arsenal to beat Man United. I feel actually, I don't usually back Arsenal for anything, but I'm backing them for that match. But yeah, let me know how you guys have done, how you've got on. I will be intrigued. And yeah, good luck. I clearly need it, so please wish me luck. But to then, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.